first of all, thanks to all the reviewers, program chairs, everybody involved in the reviewing process for putting forth a lot of work and having a great conference. Okay, we'll go ahead and discuss the process by which we selected the best paper nominees and best paper, and then I'll turn it over to Jonathan after that. We'll go to the next slide. All right, so first of all, we basically looked at the reviews for each paper and took the top 6 papers out of all conference papers. From these, we basically met and reviewed each one again. All the program chairs looked at each individual paper, and then out of those 6, we selected 4, which you saw, which were the nominees, and they were presented at the Best Paper Awards ceremony. From these 4, we selected 1. Which was based on the presentation itself, so how well the person presented, the final paper versions that were submitted, as well as the question and answer sessions. And then we decided after all those presentations, we met and selected the best paper, which I will go ahead and hand it over to Jonathan for the next part.
Okay, so these are the 4 nominees for the Best Paper Award. Shooting Labels, 3D Semantic Labeling by Virtual Reality by Pierluigi Ramirez and co-authors. Learning Kinematic Machine Models from Videos for VR/AR Training by Lucas Thies and co-authors. Towards Computer-Aided Diagnosis of Autism Spectrum Disorder Using Virtual Environments by Daniel Roth and co-authors. And Exploring the Feasibility of Mitigating VR HMD-Induced Cybersickness Using Cathodal Transcranial Direct Current Stimulation by Gang Lee and co-authors. Okay, so we had 4 great nominees, and now I can announce our Best Paper Award winner. So drum roll, please. The Best Paper Award goes to, we've got our little backstop here. Learning Kinematic Machine Models from Videos for VR/AR Training by Lucas Thies, Mark Staminger, and Frank Bauer. So congratulations on this great paper. I'm not sure if we see the co-authors here.
I think if you're in the audience, any co-authors, please raise your hand. We can promote you to a panelist, and if you want to say a couple words. Although I don't see anybody on the list.
Okay, I don't see them right now.
Okay, so on behalf of the authors, thank you very much for this award, and we'll try again next year. And,
yeah, congratulations to all the nominees too.
On nominees as well, yeah. There were some really great papers.
Okay, so now I think we can hand it over to Anita.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. And welcome to the 3rd keynote session of AI+VR 2020. I'm Min-Chun Hu from National Tsinghua University in Taiwan, and I'm very honored to host this keynote session. And let me first introduce our keynote speaker, Andrew Glassner. Andrew is a senior research scientist at Weta Digital, and he uses deep learning to help artists produce visual effects from movies and television. Before joining Weta Digital, he has carried out research at labs such as the NYIT Computer Graphics Labs, Xerox PARC, and at Microsoft Research. Andrew is very active in the field of computer graphics. He served as the paper chair of CGraph, and he is also the founding editor of the Journal of Computer Graphics Tools and the editor-in-chief of ACM Transactions on Graphics. He is a well-known writer of numerous technical papers and books. I think most of you might have heard of or even read some of his books, like 3D Computer Graphics, a handbook for artists and designers, and Introduction to Ray Tracing, and etc. And he also teaches online 2D graphics classes for new generation graphic designers and artists. Andrew is a multi-talent person. In addition to being a technology researcher, Andrew has also written and directed live actions and animated films. He was creator, writer, and director of an online multiplayer murder mystery game for the Microsoft Network. He has also written novels, screenplays, and is developing a serialized story for podcasts. And today, we are very glad to invite Andrew to share the topic about AI plus VR, the Keyfabe Life, which introduces the trend of AI plus VR from a very novel and interesting perspective. And for the audience, if you have any question, you can directly post your question in the Q&A window, and Andrew will try to go through all the questions after his talk. Let's welcome Andrew and enjoy the talk.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Anita, for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good middle of the night. Happy breakfast. I'm tired you're sleeping. I'm sorry you're sleeping. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and hello. I am going to share my screen if I can figure out how. And it looks like I can't figure out how. There we are. Share screen, share, there we are. Can you see my slides? Anyone say yes? Okay, excellent, thank you. So now we'll hit the play button and we're off. So welcome to the talk. Again, thank you, Anita, thank you, Wolfgang, and thank you everyone who has woken up early or stayed up late to join us here today. My talk is called AR plus VR, the Kayfabe Life. And you probably don't know this word, Kayfabe. I didn't know it until recently, but it's the perfect word for this talk. So I have decided to use it. And I will explain it to you in part 2 of the talk. So now I've given away the structure of the talk. There will be part 1 where we talk about AI and VR and what they are going to be when they mature, not where we are today, not what research we have to do, which is of course extremely important and much of which is being reported at this conference. And it's very exciting, but I want to look past that. I want to say what happens maybe 10, 20 years in the future when the technologies we're working on now reach their fullest fruition. What kind of a world will we be living in? Do we want that world? If so, let's do more of certain things to bring it about. If we don't, let's sort of change our mind. So we'll talk about AI and VR both individually in the first part of the talk and all the good things. And then we'll talk about some things that concern me in the second part of the talk. And that's when we'll talk about Kayfabe. So let's dig right in. Part 1, the Kayfabe life. So let's begin with VR. Oh my God, VR is the best thing ever. We all know that. That's why we do it. That's why we know it. We love it. Virtual reality is tremendous. And it's going to be everywhere. We're going to wear our goggles everywhere we go. Okay, we're not going to wear our goggles everywhere we go. But that's okay, because this is interim VR. This is not where VR is headed. VR is headed, and we all know this, direct cortical implants. Now, it doesn't have to look like this. It can be, you know, it can in fact be invisible. And in fact, I think it will be. But eventually, we will have technology in the brain, in or around the brain. I don't know exactly how it'll be done. Maybe it'll be wireless. Maybe you jack in with a plug in the back of your head. We have lots of science fiction scenarios. But we know that this is where we're going with VR. We are going to directly interface with the visual cortex, the sonic cortex, every part of the brain that senses anything from the body. We will be able to intervene. We will be able to read that information coming into the brain, and we will be able to inject new information. And we'll do it cortically because it will be efficient. And initially, it'll be awful. I mean, you may say, hey, that's impossible. We'll never be able to do it. Well, we can do it one neuron at a time. Surely we can eventually imagine being able to completely simulate a single neuron. And if we can do that, we can put that one neuron into someone's brain, and their brain will work just fine, but one neuron will be artificial. So this brings us to the parable of Theseus's boat. This is an old Greek paradox. Theseus has a boat. It's a big wooden boat, and he sails it everywhere. And one day, one of the boards rots. So they take the board off and they put a new board on, and they sail the boat. And then the next year, one of the sails rips. So they take away the sail and they put in a new sail, and they sail the boat. Well, piece by piece by piece, they replace every single piece of Theseus's boat until it's completely different. It's not a single piece of the original boat remains. Is it still Theseus's boat? And if it's not, when did it stop being Theseus's boat? Well, I think we can do the same thing neurologically. We can replace one neuron. Well, if we can replace one, we can replace two. If we can replace two, we can replace three, and so on. And we don't even have to replace them. All we have to do is be able to sit side by side with them, reading the information that goes in and out so we can talk to them and we can listen to them. So if we can do that, then we can do all the senses, not just, seeing in the big five, seeing, hearing, smell, touch, taste, but heat and pressure and cold and wind and just and wetness, all the things that we're able to sense, we will be able to read and write. And because we can write them, we will have perfect feedback. We won't need any of the very clever but complicated devices that we have now to give us tactile and other feedback, because we'll just inject that directly into the receptors. And so if you reach down to hug a dog, you will smell him and you will feel him, and the dog will move properly, and you'll feel the dog's fur, and you'll taste the saliva that's in the air. And in every possible way, you will believe that that dog is there. That's where VR is going. That's what we want. Not just replace or augment vision, not just replace or augment sound, but replace and augment reality, actually. Because after all, we don't call it virtual vision or virtual audio, we call it virtual reality. And that's where we're going. We're going to replace reality. Maybe we'll augment it. There's certainly, I'm not going to make a distinction about that. We can certainly either mix the incoming stream of sensory input with artificial, or we can replace it. So I'm generally in this talk, I'll talk about replacing it. We can certainly augment it instead. So this is VR, total sensorial generation and replacement and reading. And not only will we have that, but we'll all be connected, because this is all going to computers, and computers are all connected. So our sensorium will be able to read and write other people's sensorium. And that gets really interesting, and we'll come back to that. So if we can change the world that we perceive, then we can decorate the world. Well, we decorate the world already. We put signs everywhere. We put advertising absolutely everywhere. We put stuff on the ground. We put stuff on the walls. We put license plates on cars. There's signage and information everywhere. And of course, that's only going to expand. It can go absolutely crazy to where it's overwhelming. This is Times Square in New York, where advertising has reached the point where it's almost a joke. But nevertheless, people do it because it pays. But it doesn't always have to be official advertising. People can add to the world, and they do. People add to the world in many creative and unusual ways, and this is just one of them. Some of these works are beautiful, and some of these works are maybe less than beautiful. But people are free to make them. Maybe legally they're taking a risk, but people do decorate the world. And of course, we've seen this in augmented reality now. There's lots of people making 3D and other, 4D, if they change in time, artworks in space that you can only perceive if you've got the glasses on and you're looking at the right spot and you're connected to the right network and so on. So we can certainly decorate the world both in 2D and in 3D, in reality and in the virtual reality. And again, one of the themes I'm going to keep coming back to is we are going to have no difference between reality and virtual reality, because we won't be able to tell the difference. And when you can't tell the difference, then the difference just becomes semantic. If we can do this, if we can change what you feel and what you sense, then we can let you feel and sense all kinds of wonderful things. I have always wanted to have a tail, in particular a prehensile tail, one that I can control. So I can be talking to you now and I can have my tail hold a cup of coffee and bring it over every once in a while. Or maybe I'm coming home with my groceries in my hands and my tail can get the keys out of my pocket and open up the door for me. Now, of course, we can simulate all this. We can make my body think that my tail is doing these things, but what's actually doing them in real life? Little robots. The world will be surrounded by little robots whose job it is to take over when needed. They're not dedicated to this. They're just little robots ambling around. And when I say, oh my gosh, I want my tail to reach into my pocket and get out my keys, the little robot comes over and it reaches into my pocket and it gets out my keys and it opens up my door for me. And then it goes off to help someone else. Well, if I can have a tail, I could have a trunk, and I can do all the things elephants can do with their trunks, which are absolutely amazing. I can carry things for long distances. Oh, I could be a tiger. Wouldn't it be cool to be a tiger and make those tiger stretches and be able to run like a tiger does and see the world through a tiger's eyes? Wouldn't it be amazing to be a hawk and have the kind of incredible visual acuity that a hawk has and be able to fly? Oh my gosh, we could fly. So VR is absolutely tremendous, what it will bring us. So what's the other part of the technology we're talking about this conference? We're talking about AI. Oh my God, AI. Oh, it's so wonderful. It's going to be so good. So many wonderful things are going to happen with AI. It's going to be the best thing ever. One thing that's wonderful about AI is we'll be able to project digital personalities. We'll be able to make a representation of ourselves that is not who we actually are in real life, but our best imagined version of ourselves. So as I give you this talk right now, I'm picking words out of the air and saying them, but maybe I'm not picking out the very best words. And I could have an artificial intelligence system that is between me and the microphone that is just nuancing my words a little bit to make them just exactly what I mean rather than what I'm actually able to say in real time. So if we can do this, we can have any kind of representation we want for other people. People will see whatever we want them to see of us. So suppose we want people to see us as a marionette. Great. Everyone in the world will see us as a marionette because that's what their sensory system will deliver to them through the VR interface. And I don't have to move like a marionette. I just move like myself. And this isn't just motion mapping. This is a complete reinterpretation of everything that my body is doing into what a marionette can do. And so if I wave my arms around in a particular way, that will get mapped into someone marionetting this puppet. And of course, marionettes can be little, marionettes can be big. We can have any kind of avatar we want. We can be ghosts, so we can be little shimmering points of light, and we can be, you know, our favorite video game character, whatever we want to be. That is how people will see us. And it will all make sense semantically. There will be semantic coherence. All the stuff we say, all this, the way we move, the way we look, the way we talk, the foods we eat, everything we do that is being generated by these AI systems will all be coherent. There will never be a piece out of place. And we are getting there. We're getting to a situation like this very quickly. We have systems that can write text that looks really a lot like text that you or I wrote. It's in our voice. And of course, you read too much of it and the illusion is broken, but we're getting there. We're moving very quickly towards being able to do all of these things. Certainly none of this is out of reasonable anticipation. Nothing requires a kind of technology we don't have. It just requires more of it. Another wonderful advantage of having AI around all the time is that it can help us with everything. We have a personal 24/7 attorney and doctor and chef, and they're helping us with everything. If you're making dinner and you taste it and it's not quite right, you know, the little AI can say what you need is a little more coriander. And you go, oh, I've never thought of that, but you're right. That's exactly what I need. Who wouldn't want that? So we are going to welcome these things into our lives. If we're about to walk downstairs and there's a little bit of ice and we might slip, and the system can notice that and say, whoa, don't put your foot there, you're gonna slip. And you didn't do your core exercises yesterday because I talked to your doctor and I know that you're not quite ready for it. And if you put your foot down, it's not gonna be good. Move your foot a 1/4 inch to the left. Wow, who wouldn't want that? So we are going to love having these permanently connected, all-knowing, all-seeing AI systems totally personalized for us in our lives. Well, AI is wonderful and VR is wonderful. And so VR plus AI is going to be absolutely mind-blowingly great. I mean, how is this not the best thing ever? And of course, that's what we're all here to celebrate at this conference is VR and AI coming together. So what is the future going to be when these grand visions of AI become realized and we have this total sensorial sensing and replacement, and AI comes online and we have these personalized experts that can help us with everything. When those two things come together, well, that's when the magic happens. All kinds of amazing things can happen. For example, these systems can help us discover more things about the world that we never knew. I've never gone scuba diving, but a system could look at my life and say, you would love that. I mean, right now we have these systems that say, oh, you read this book, you might like that book. Imagine if we had systems that could say, oh, you like this aspect of your life, you would like that aspect of your life. You would like to bring this into your life. I might be an absolutely fantastic trumpet player. For all I know, I just happen to have the right embouchure. I have the right flexibility in my fingertips. I just have the right nuance of physiology and psychology and everything else to make me just be a fantastic trumpet player. If only I picked up the trumpet and worked at it and learned how to play the trumpet, I would discover I'm fantastic. I've never picked up a trumpet. I don't know if I would be good. There are a lot of musical instruments to try. An AI system could say, you know what, you're not going to be very good at bassoon. You don't have the right chops for that, but you would be amazing at trumpet. Go pick up the trumpet. You'll be so happy. So these systems can help us learn about ourselves and they can help us learn about each other. Imagine if you can not only visit a place, and of course, these are all pre-COVID. So I think right now this is even more apropos. Rather than even visiting a place, what if you were able to be in the mind of someone in another place? And you could just ride piggyback on their experiences and their food and their music and their dancing and their games and their families and everything about the world that they live in, you could join in and experience. And of course, you wouldn't lose yourself. You would just be riding along. Well, if we could do that, then the AI systems, along with the VR, can help us become better people. That, for me, is the great promise of VR plus AI. They can help us get better. They can help us break bad habits. They can help us develop new habits because they see us and they can urge us and they can nuance us and nudge us. And they can help us reshape our lives in the way we want in order to become the people that we most want to be. So this, for me, is a beautiful dream. And this is the positive dream of VR plus AI. And I mentioned before, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to fly? And I think it would be so great. You know, it would be wonderful to be an owl. I don't know how to be an owl, but owls know how to be owls. So if I could piggyback my brain, if I could instrument an owl, and I could read off all of its sensoria, right? I know what its muscles are doing. I know what its brain is doing. Then those things could be mapped into my head. And it could be a two-way link so that, now I don't know how to fly. I don't know how to fly. I mean, what do? Do I move my shoulders? Do I move my fingertips? I don't know how to be an owl. So maybe what I have to do is to start with a chick. And so I'm an owl chick. And as the owl chick learns how to live its life, I learn too. And I go, oh, I can turn my head around almost 360 degrees. Oh, now I can figure out how to fly. And maybe this owl and I will become just absolute the best of friends, like dogs or human friends. We will have this incredibly intimate relationship because our minds and our sensoria are directly linked. I'd love to be an owl. I'd love to be an orca whale and swim and splash in the ocean and go deep underwater for extended periods of time. And I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to be an orca whale or a dolphin or an eagle? Or imagine that you had the visual acuity of a hawk. It would just be amazing. So the thing is that the perceived world that we will receive as a result of having these VR implants is not the world as it is. It will be the world as we receive it from these mediated interfaces. A few interesting good things come from this. We have perfect recall. We'll always remember what we said, what we did, where we put our car keys. This has upsides and downsides. A nice fun little thing is we could always have a soundtrack for our life. Everywhere we go, there could be a musical accompaniment. that fits our lives. I mean, it works so well in movies. Yeah, it should work well in real life too. I mean, you could always turn it off, but it'd be nice. You know, you're walking down the street, it's a sunny day, you're feeling good, and the music is playing. Pretty great. But the real beauty of this is that when we're able to share other people's experiences, when we're able to share what they, literally what they're feeling, then we can develop empathy. We can understand what is going on in the mind of others, and they can understand what's going on in our minds, and we can be together. We can understand each other to a level that we could never understand each other before. And if we can do that, well, then we can teleport. Because what's the difference between moving your whole body somewhere and just moving your awareness somewhere? If your total awareness is somewhere else and you're able to execute agency, you know, move and pick up things and receive all the sensoria that you would receive if you were there, that's effectively teleporting, which means great. You could go to Mars and you could hop inside the rover and you could trundle along on the surface of Mars and go where you like to go. And you go, oh, well, yeah, I feel an itch in my front left wheel. And you would be the rover. So that would be pretty great. Another thing that would totally transform is sex. Imagine if you were in a sexual relationship with, let's say, one other person, and you were able to feel everything that that person feels. Their entire sensory response system now is available to you, and you feel everything they feel. Or imagine you could switch. They feel everything you feel, and you feel everything they feel. Instead of feeling your own body, you feel their body, and they feel your body. Wow. Imagine you could both feel each other's body at the same time. And so now you're like one entity. The possibilities are tremendous, and they go right down to the most intimate of human experiences. So let's take a very brief break where we can do a little bit of Q&A about all the wonderful things that are going to happen. And then the second half, we'll talk about some of the cautionary items that where things might go for wrong. But for right now, let's have a couple of questions if we have them on the stuff that we've covered so far. So Anita, I'm going to throw it back to you for a couple of minutes. I will stop sharing my screen, and you, whoops, I can't find my mouse. There we are.
Let's see whether we have any question right now.
If not, we'll just keep going.
I think they might need some time to type the question. We will wait for a moment. If no, then we can keep going.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good thought, is if you do have questions, type them as we go, so that when we break, they are available to us immediately.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we can keep going because
okay.
Oh, we have one question. We have one question. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Let's hear the dark side. Okay, so it's somewhat like a comment.
You read my mind.
Okay, then maybe we can keep going.
Okay, so let's do that. So I'll take over the screen again. Share my screen. There we are. Desktop. Whoops.
Okay, we have another question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Thanks for the speech, very inspiring. I have a question about the possibility of sensory response system, empathy, etc. What about memory? Wow, finding answers to questions that lie in the past, but that were. I mean, imagine your dead grandmother didn't finish her story about the past, and you will need data from heritage and memory institutions to form a narrative. What barriers are still there?
So that's a really interesting question. We will talk about memory. So thank you. You're right on target with what I want to talk about. So I'll tell you what, let's come back to that after we've talked about memory. But I think the sort of thing you're thinking is plausible and entirely probable. So is that Anita? Should we keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay, onward. thank you for those questions. So yeah, maybe it's all a bit too good to be true. What? And that was part one. That was the rosy side, and there's a lot to like about that. I mean, those were not just silly examples. I want to be an orca whale. I love my dog. I want to see the world through my dog's eyes. I mean, my dog thinks I'm an idiot. My dog thinks I'm incredibly stupid. We're walking down the street and there are these incredibly obvious smells. Very interesting, rich, complex smells that totally explain all kinds of things. And my dog is like swimming in this world of olfactory input. And he looks at me and I am completely oblivious because I'm an idiot. I have no idea. I don't seem to be recognizing that these smells even exist. And of course, I don't. I would love to be inside his head and see the world, feel the world the way he feels. So let's talk about some of the other sides. So let's all take a breath. This is nothing except a little palate cleanser. You know, in a multi-course meal, they bring out the sherbet between courses so that you can clear your palate and go, okay, I was tasting this, and now I'll taste something new. So now we're going to talk about something new. And we'll enter part two, the Kayfabe life. So again, clear your mind. We've talked about all the wonderful stuff. So now the question is, and this is exactly what the question was asking, is the future that we're talking about a wonderful little puppy in a teacup or a monster that's out to destroy us? Well, you know where I'm going with this. It's some of both. And the reason I promised I would explain why I'm calling this the Kayfabe life. And I will define that word for you now. And it's important enough that I'm going to show you the definition, and I'm going to do the thing you never do, which is I'm going to read the slide to you, because I want us all to like really internalize this definition. Kayfabe, the convention of presenting staged performances as genuine or authentic. So let me tell you where kayfabe comes from. It's slang. There is an activity. There are companies in the United States and elsewhere in the world that do a very interesting kind of a performance. They hire elite athletes, people who are really, really in, just absolutely in top physical shape. And most of them are wrestlers, and if they don't know how to wrestle, they teach them how to wrestle. They hire these people, and then a group of writers invent a character for them. They invent a name and a story. They give them likes and dislikes. They invent a character, just like any writer would for any story. Then they write a storyline for the entire season. So all the performers that they've hired, they write a soap opera. They write a story. You're going to like this person, and then you're going to fight with that one, and you'll betray that one, and you'll have a relationship with this one. So they write out an entire season's worth of a story. And now this is presented to the viewing public as though it was real. The performers go out and they act like one of the other performers is their friend or their enemy or their lover, or had betrayed them or did them a favor. It's, again, they're all following a script. They're performing the characters that were written for them at every stage in the performance. Then after doing this, and they generally do this through the form of interviews, and so they do this interview, I hate that person, I love that person, I'm so angry at that person. Then they go into the ring and they wrestle. And the wrestling is all choreographed, it's all scripted. They know what moves they're going to do, and they know in what succession they're going to do them. They know what they're going to do to one another. And the purpose of the performance is to entertain. It is not for them to hurt one another or even to win. They already know who's going to win. It's been predetermined. They are executing a script. However, they are stuntmen. They are doing something extremely dangerous. They are doing very high physicality, precision physical activity, and they are strong and they are good. I mean, these are elite athletes. And when things go wrong, they get hurt. They can get very badly hurt. So absolutely no question that these are amazing athletes doing amazing work. But the work that they are doing is stunt performance work. They are executing a script. They are doing things that they know they're going to do, that they've practiced and rehearsed. Here's where kayfabe comes from. This was all presented to the audience as though it was real. They never said we've scripted this. They never said we're performers acting as characters. They never said our wrestling matches are predetermined. It was all presented as though it was 100% genuine. Now, at this point, I think most audiences, because this has gone on for many years, most audiences now accept, okay, we're watching a performance. This is a show. But some don't. And certainly for many years, many people did not. They totally bought into the fantasy that these people were putting forth. And so the performers themselves came up with this slang locker room word called Kayfabe. And that's what they called what they were doing. Their pretend performances that they were telling the world is real. That's Kayfabe, when the fake performance is presented as genuine. And you can see where this is coming from when we are able to replace sensoria and we don't know what's being synthesized and what's being actually just relayed from the real world. We can't tell what's staged and what's authentic, which means that we live in the Kayfabe world. Now, not all performances are Kayfabe. When you see a magician saw a woman in half, you don't really think he's sawing her in half. You know he isn't. That's the fun of it. When you see actors in a play or a movie, you know that they are not the characters they are performing to be. You know that they're working from a script and that they've been directed and that there's a lighting designer and there's a scene designer and there's costumers. You know all of this. And so no one is pretending that they are, in fact, actually literally really doing what they appear to be doing as the people that they're doing it. But in the Kayfabe world, we do. So, okay, if we have this stuff coming into our brains that we can't tell from reality, then the key question we have to ask is, who is choosing what gets into us? Who owns the agenda? And there's always an agenda. Something is doing the choosing, whether it's a person or an algorithm. The algorithm was written by a person or a group of people. So somewhere along the line, something is choosing what gets into the data that is presented to us and what doesn't. That is a choice, and that choice is being driven by an agenda. So the question is, who owns the channel? Who is controlling the information that comes into our minds if we're going to be part of this world? And we will be, and we'll talk about that just in a moment. So you know that they have a plan because everybody has a plan. Everybody has an agenda. Every one of us has a picture of how we want our lives to be and how we want the world to be. And we actively take steps in the world to bring about the world that we envision, the world that we imagine. So anytime you want to understand someone's plan, or you want to understand the plan of an organization or the purpose of something that's happening, anytime you want to say, why is that happening? The question is, who benefits and what do they want? Well, the answer to what do they want in Western democracies, almost always, with a few exceptions, is money and power. That's what people want. That is the system we have constructed. We have constructed a world in which money and power are the gateway mechanisms to everything else. And so whatever it is you want to do in this world, if you have money and or power, you're able to do those things. And if you don't, you are not. And so that's what drives the vast majority of what goes on in current Western democracies. Now, sure, there are altruistic people, there are altruistic organizations, but they are few in number and they are not what the system was designed to encourage. In fact, the system is designed to discourage them. If you are a part of a public company, if you are the president of a company that's traded on the stock exchange, and you are not doing everything possible to maximize the return of money to your shareholders, they will fire you and they will replace you with someone who does bring back the most amount of money. That is what drives everything. That's the system we have set up. And sure, there are a few organizations that are so big or so powerful they can step outside of this, but by and large, corporations exist to make money, to amass power. So that's the agenda. So you always want to know who is behind this and in what way are these choices bringing them money and power. And that's the thing to always remember. These choices are not being made for us. They are not in the sense that they're not being made to help us, not being made to make us better people, to make us happier. They're made to achieve their own agenda. that means everything will be a deception. And everything is a deception. It's a deception at least because it's filtered. There is no piece of information that you receive that is not distorted in some way. And it's literally because the universe is infinite and every piece of information is finite. And that means necessarily something is omitted. And whatever is omitted, we are making a value judgment. We're saying that doesn't matter. So in every photograph you've ever seen, there's a foreground, a background, and then everything out of frame. And whatever is out of frame, you don't know about, it doesn't exist. Now, maybe you can contextualize the photograph, but in terms of the photograph itself, whatever is out of frame does not exist. And in that sense, the photograph can be deceptive because important information for understanding what's in the photo is entirely absent. So everything is necessarily finite. And what we often do, part of the creative act, is to decide what to leave in, what to leave out, and then how to take what you're deciding to leave in and compress it in a way that someone can appreciate and understand it. So everything has bias. The bias can simply be what isn't shown. Again, like in a photograph, whatever's outside of the frame doesn't exist. That's the bias of photography. And if we execute the bias in a persistent, predictable way, then it can become a bad thing. If we always exclude a certain kind of person from every photograph, then it can begin to appear that that kind of person doesn't exist. So this is the sense in which bias is bad. If the choice of what is to be excluded is made persistently, and it doesn't have to be malicious, it just has to be persistent and consistent, then that is the act of bias. And everything is biased, everyone is biased, but we try in many ways not to be biased because we want to understand the world. We don't want to understand an incorrect picture of the world. Well, let's think about what happens when the AI, coming back to AI and VR coming together. When people see of you what is being presented to them as mediated by your sensory receptors, the AI system in between, and their VR reception system. So they are seeing what is presented to them. The big risk, or one big risk, is something that derives from identity theft. We're familiar with identity theft. Somebody steals your credit card, somebody steals your bank account, and if you've ever been through identity theft, it is hell. It totally swamps your life for years. You can't travel, you can't get a job, you can't get into a school, you can't get medical care. Whoever has stolen your identity can completely destroy where you are in the world because we are so electronically interconnected. Well, once we have these more sophisticated systems, people can steal not just your identity, they can steal your personality. They can steal everything about you. When your friend is talking to you, it's not you, it's them. It's them wearing a you suit and they're puppeteering a you simulation that looks like you and talks like you and acts like you and eats what you eat and drinks what you drink and laughs when you laugh, because the VR system knows you and it is performing you. And you can imagine the nefarious things someone could get up to when in every way, every probe, every question they can ask, everything that they could possibly check, it is you. Well, we don't have to limit that to just one person. We could have 100 yous. We could have a botnet army of yous. So someone could let loose 10,000 yous in the world. And they're all running around doing whatever that person would like them to do. And nobody can tell. It's not really, really, really you, because there's no way to tell. For everyone, there's nothing that they can do to unearth the fact that it's not you, because you are enmeshed in the same VR AI universe that they are. Well, if they can steal your personality, they can steal your everything. Absolutely everything. They can steal your medical records. They can steal your history. They can steal everything about you. And in fact, they can steal everything that's been recorded about you. And in a world where everything is electronically connected, if you are suddenly completely disconnected from everything, in a sense, you cease to exist as far as the world is concerned. And you can have your entire life destroyed in the flick of a switch. All of the work you've ever done, boom, it's gone. everything you've ever published, every painting you've ever made, boom, it's gone because they exist. Some of them exist in the real world, but many of them will exist in the digital world. So this is a little scary. We need to have ways to prevent this. Let's talk about another kind of problem, which is, what do you believe? When your VR system can present you with information that you can't tell from reality, and it's being generated by an AI system that is so good that it's semantically consistent with everything else, how do you tell what to believe? And this comes back to, why would people believe this digital puppet that claims to be you? It's because you can't tell. We have this phrase, we often say seeing is believing, but it's not just seeing, it's seeing and tasting and feeling and smelling and touching. And if every single one of your senses tells you that there's a giant jellyfish in front of you, you can smell it, you can see how it moves, you can see its influence on the ocean waves. Everything about it says that is a giant jellyfish in front of you. It's going to be very hard to deny the reality of it. Eventually you'll just say, well, I guess there's giant jellyfish in the world, who knew? Certainly if you were a kid, the first time you see a jellyfish, this thing looks like the most bizarre creature anywhere. And you might be inclined to go, what? That's not real. And then you see a few jellyfish and gradually you go, yeah, all right. I've seen enough of them. Maybe I went to the aquarium and I touched one. I now know that jellyfish are a real thing. Well, giant jellyfish can be real things because they pass all of those tests. So one reaction to all this is, well, I won't buy into it, right? I just won't buy into this whole dark world that you're describing. I won't have these implants. I won't let my thoughts be recorded. I won't be into this giant network of shared realities. And my answer is, maybe a few people will be able to do that, but you won't be able to function as part of this society, because that is what the society and the culture will become. And you can live outside of the culture, and you can be a loner living in a cabin all by yourself, and that's fine. I mean, in a lot of ways, I find that appealing. But if you're going to be, holding down a job and going to school and driving your car and being part of the world, then you're going to have to buy into all of this. And why is the world going to buy into all of this? Here's one argument for it. For many years, we have all been very concerned about surveillance. We've all been very worried about governments and companies, putting eyes and ears into our lives. And we've been very concerned about this, and we consider it a dystopia. And yet, people buy these things called smart speakers. Now, this is a triumph of advertising. This is absolutely marketing winning the game, because these things, calling it a smart speaker is not wrong, but it's enormously misleading. Sure, there is a speaker inside, and sure, it seems to be smart. And if you're not familiar with these are like the devices that you talk to. And it can be in your cell phone, it can be a standalone device, and you say something like, play this music, or turn on the vacuum cleaner, or order me a new roll of paper towels. So you speak to these things, and then they respond in some way. But how is this being done? They record what you say, and then they ship it up to the cloud. They ship it up to some set of servers, typically run by a private for-profit corporation. The company, does machine learning magic and figures out what you're saying and what to do in response, sends that information back down to the speaker, where then maybe something is played through the speaker, or it goes off and orders new paper towels for you. So it's not really a smart speaker. In fact, it is a surveillance microphone. This is the very thing people have been worried about. And not only are they allowing it into their homes, they're buying them. They're paying for the privilege of putting a surveillance microphone in their home. And not just in their home. People are putting these things in the most intimate parts of their homes. They're putting them in their kitchens where their family gathers. They're putting them in their bedrooms. They are voluntarily buying surveillance microphones and putting them in their bedrooms. It's the creepiest thing. And yet people are doing it by droves. lives and say, oh, well, it's safe because we know the company won't actually reveal the recordings, and the companies say, oh, no, we never will. And of course, that's nonsense. Everybody gets hacked, even if the company, certainly some of these companies are not being straight up with us. They say, oh, we'll never sell your data, but then they do. There's some fine print that lets them sell something that they call anonymized, but it's not really anonymized. And it turns out a year later that people are able to figure it all out. Or, I mean, we just keep seeing businesses and corporations and governments getting hacked. There's a huge hacking event right now in the United States. Many government agencies were hacked. So, even the people who are trying the hardest to avoid getting hacked, they get hacked all the time, right? We keep seeing these dumps of 100,000 credit card numbers have just been released to the dark web. So these surveillance microphones are in fact communicating information up to a system that has a very good chance of just spreading out to the world. And now they're selling smart displays, which are not smart displays, they're surveillance cameras. So now people are spending money to put cameras and microphones into their home to send data to a faceless multinational corporation. And they're doing it not just voluntarily, but they're paying for it. And this is why I'm saying this sort of stuff is unavoidable. People like convenience, and privacy and security are complicated and hard. And if someone says, no, I promise you, I will treat this well and I'll protect you, but if you give me your data, I can make your life easier in a little way. You don't have to go to the store to buy paper towels. You don't even have to go online. You just say, order paper towels and I'll do it for you. And people say, oh, that sounds great. Thank you. Yes. And hand you all their data. So once we have this information available to us, and we will, it's just a small step to hacking it. And so that's what neurohacking will be. And neurohacking is absolutely pernicious because we know that there are loopholes in our processing power in our brain. We know that there are things that we do. We know that there are biases and fallacies, and there are all sorts of techniques that salesmen know. They're called persuasion techniques, and salesmen know them. For example, here's a common one. This is the contrast phenomenon. I work at a clothing store and I want to sell you a $50 pair of socks. $50 is a lot of money for socks. So if you walk in and I say, hi, oh, I have these wonderful $50 socks for you, you're likely to say, no, thank you. I'll pay $4 for my socks, thank you. But if we lead off with a $600 suit and then a $300 tie and a $200 pair of shoes, well, $40 pair of socks is nothing compared to all that. So this is a contrast issue, and salesmen exploit this. Lots of and salesmen for everything, salesmen for money and salesmen for politicians and salesmen for religions, they exploit this. Well, there are many such phenomena that salespeople exploit for their own advantage. They're not doing this for you, they're doing it for them. Again, money and power. Who has the agenda? What's really pernicious about this is right now this is done in a general way, right? So like the contrast phenomenon I just told you about, well, that's common to most people. But not absolutely everyone, but most people. Recently in the United States, we had an election in which people got very upset because ads were targeted. The different political organizations made many variations, hundreds of variations on a basic ad. And then they went to Facebook and based on your profile, what you liked, what you didn't like, who you were friends with, they showed you one version of the ad or a different version of the ad. They showed you the version that they selected because they thought it would be most effective at persuading you of their point of view. And people got very upset about this. They said, you're profiling us, and people got very upset, justifiably so. But that is nothing compared to if these systems can read our neuronal output and input, they can exploit every tiny little crack in your psychic defenses to trick you and persuade you and manipulate you into believing or acting in any way they want. And if you think, oh, I won't let them, I'm going to be strong and I'll put up my defenses, they see your defenses. They're inside your head. And they go, oh, okay, we won't go in this way, we'll go in that way. And they will find ways, because our brains are not perfect defense mechanisms. And they will find a way, because these things are fast. They can try 1,000 attacks in a minute. And they will find the attacks that work on you and me and everyone we know will get hacked. And it's not that hard physically, right? It's a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of electronics, and then just some clever manipulation. And you think, wait, no, this is going to be extraordinarily difficult. Sure, in the beginning it will be. It will be enormously hard, and only super experts will be able to do it, just like normal hacking was. And now any kid can download, hacking tools from the darknet and drive a botnet of 10,000, bots to do their bidding. They're called script kiddies. They just download the script and do it. Well, we'll have script kiddies doing neuro hacking. That's going to be great when every 5-year-old has complete unfettered access to your brain. So why would we ever allow this? Well, it's not just convenience. It's because these things in our brain will be the best friend we have ever had. These things will anticipate our every need, our every want, our every desire before we're even aware of them. Before we get thirsty, there will be a drink next to us. Before we think it would be nice to hear music, the music will play. Before we even think, no, I don't want reggae right now, I want classical, the classical music will play. These systems will totally anticipate and fulfill our every need. They will be a personal genie. They will be absolutely the creature who knows you like no other and can anticipate and fulfill every desire. Who wouldn't love that? I mean, that's what the power and the money are supposed to get us. Or that's a large part of what they're supposed to get us. So if we've got these things talking into our brain, and maybe we can trust them and maybe we can't, and I see things and maybe it's a real thing and maybe it's not a real thing, maybe it's a synthetic thing, maybe it's a fake puppet. Trust becomes the question. What do you trust? If you see a dinosaur on the screen, is that a real dinosaur? Is it a fake dinosaur? Well, one thing that people say is, well, the answer is education. What we'll do is we'll have personalized, high quality education. So instead of learning from one teacher in front of a group of 50 students, everyone will get their own personalized teacher who will know what they're good at and what they're not good at, help them with their strengths, help them more with their weaknesses, and in a personalized, individual way, in a one-to-one connection with that child, help that child grow, and we can help them build in defense structures. This is an absolutely terrible idea. The concept of personalized education is an absolutely horrible thing. If you've ever read Brave New World, that's what's going on. When you can reach a child at an early stage and you can shape what they hear and what they see and what they understand of reality, when you shape what they know of themselves, you are shaping that person. And so if I tell a child that they do a certain thing and I go, oh, that's great, you're very good at that. And every time they do it, I say, oh my gosh, you're twice as good at that as anyone else. And they do something else and go, well, you weren't really very good at that. Don't focus on that. Or maybe I can help you, but it's this other thing you're great at. They will come to love the thing that they're good at, because that's what we do. We want to become good at things, and we want to please the people, or maybe the AI people. We can't tell the difference. We want to please the people around us and ourselves. We want mastery, and so we can turn these children into anything we want. We need more plumbers. We make more plumbers, and they'll be happy plumbers. They're like, oh, I love to do plumbing, but who knows what they would have chosen if we had not directed them towards plumbing or computer programming or hot air ballooning, whatever it is. Even if you think it's a benign thing, we are putting that into the child. And you could argue, well, why aren't we doing that now? And it is because we have A, real human beings in charge who have empathy, and B, they are teaching 50 kids at once. And so they can't do this kind of targeted precision manipulation. And that's the problem with personalized education. It is precision manipulation on children. And you think, well, we don't have defense mechanisms. They don't have any defense mechanisms yet. And you can totally create the children you want to create and the people you want to create. And I don't think anyone should have that power. So I think personalized education is just the worst thing, and we have to avoid it. Someone asked about memories. So memories are really important. when we ask who we are, memories tell us who we are. Memories are who we have been. When you were confronted with a difficult situation in the past, you worked on it, you thought about it, you spent a lot of time, maybe you talked to your friends, you came up with a decision. Now, when that similar thing comes up, you say, oh, I've dealt with this, I've wrestled with this issue, this is what I do. In a sense, I am the kind of person who does this, because this is what I have done in the past. And so, because that is who I am, because that's what I've done, those are the choices I've made, they've led me to be the person I am now. My next choices will be based on the choices I have made. I am my memories. I am my personal story. Well, this is a problem when we learn a little bit more about memory. We used to think memory was a file cabinet, right? There was a memory, you went, you pulled it out, you read it, that was the recall, and then you put it back in the file cabinet and it went back just the way it came out. And we now know that's not how it works at all. Memories are much more like refrigerators. You pull something out, but it's only a little bit of something. In fact, the memories that you extract from memory are fragmented. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that with lots of holes. And we fill in the holes. We fill in the holes with what seems likely, with what other little bits we can recall, with what we know from experience. And so we reconstruct the memory from the fragments. So you start with something, you only have little bits of it, and you reconstruct it. And then after you're done with that memory, you write it back into memory. And what you write back is the reconstruction. The original is weaker or gone. And what is stored is the reconstruction. And this has been demonstrated experimentally over and over again. And in fact, you can intervene in this process medically. People have done this with rats. They teach a rat to run a maze and the rat learns it. And then they cause the rat to recall the maze. And just at the moment when the rat is going to write that memory back into their memory, they hit them with an injection of something that inhibits the process of forming the new memory, right? The generation of the new proteins that encode the memory, and the memory doesn't get written. The old memory erodes because nothing has reinforced it. The new memory does not get written, and the rat forgets. And people do this now experimentally for humans who are trying to deal with things like post-traumatic stress disorder. They cause them to recall the memory that is causing them pain. They sit with the memory, and then when it's time to store the memory again, zap, they hit them with an injection that inhibits the writing of new memory, and the memory doesn't get written. And it becomes just a little bit weaker, and they're better able to deal with their trauma. So memory is something that is constantly changing as we deal with it, but at least we're in charge of the memory. We are our stories. And if something or someone changes our stories in a fundamental way, they change us. I am not the kind of person who does this. I'm the kind of person who does that. And therefore, when I'm faced with a different situation, I will do that instead of this. Okay, so this is all scary stuff. What are we going to do about it? How do we protect ourselves from all the downsides? How do we get all the upsides from the first part of the talk and prevent all the downsides from the second part of the talk? Well, we certainly can't rely on the people who are providing the services to us. They're the ones, they're the multinationals, they're the governments, they're the ones who say, trust us. No, your data is safe with us. Oh, we would never feed you information that's not trustworthy or that you shouldn't have. Yeah, right. So no, we should not trust these folks who are delivering it. How do we build trust in reality? We build trust step by step. I entrust you with some small, low risk piece of information or an obligation, and you come through with it. And then you trust me to do something small and low risk, and I come through with it. And one step at a time, we raise the ante for each other until we both feel, yes, that person has succeeded in validating my trust so many times that I now trust them quite a bit. That's how we build up trust. But we can't do that with these organizations because they're not really relying on us for anything. For them, it's just a game. It's just an AI playing a game, and at a certain point, it can break the rules. So here's the thing that really, this is the core thing that I think worries me the most. We need to be able to trust our own thoughts. I need to be able to trust that something I'm thinking is mine. It's coming from my history and my understanding of the world. And it's not coming from some little electrical or chemical impulse that is being delivered to me by the multinational or the government or whoever it is that is controlling or has hacked the circuitry that I have voluntarily placed into my head. If I see a mammoth coming towards me, I want to be able to know that I created that mammoth from my imagination and it's not a real mammoth about to step on me. So how do we trust our own thoughts when we have these AI and VR systems that in effect coexist in our brains? For me, that's the million-dollar question. So let's hit pause. Now, we can't stop technologies. We've never been able to. We couldn't stop nuclear weapons and we can't stop genetic cloning. Someone somewhere is always going to do it. But we can say, look, let's think about this. Let's think about where we're going and let's see how much we can control it. The way we control things in Western democracies is with laws. We establish boundaries. That's just how we've chosen to do it. We say to people, you can do whatever you want, but if you do something that we have deemed wrong or illegal and we catch you, there will be penalties. And we hope that the penalties will be so high that you won't do the bad thing in the first place. So we generally don't try to stop you from dumping pollutants into the water and poisoning people. We let companies do whatever they're going to do. But if we catch them dumping pollutants into the water, we find them and we punish them and we make it so unpleasant that we hope in the first place they will decide not to do it. Now, this is arguably a terrible way to control morality and decision making, but that's how we do it in these cultures. We create laws and we try to make the laws so threatening that it inhibits the behavior before it's taken for fear of the retribution and the punishment that will come from breaking that law. Now, laws only work if we have regulators who monitor and watch and look for violations. And so in addition to laws on these things, we need a very robust and very strong monitoring system that watches for problems, catches them, and brings them to the justice system where they can be prosecuted. And if someone breaks those laws, then they need to take personal responsibility, they themselves. In the United States, we have very quickly moved to a model where if a company does something terrible, like dump poison into the water, the company gets punished. And the company might lose money or have to pay money back, or the company might go bankrupt. But the people, by and large, walk free. We call it white collar crime and we just don't punish them. And maybe they lose their job. Oh no, I only have a few $1 million in the bank. Oh no, woe is me. Or maybe they don't have a few million, they find another job. The company pays, not the people. We have to make it so that the people pay, the human beings. If you are in charge of an organization and you do this kind of neurohacking, and we have established laws against it, you are ripped from your family. You are put into a place you don't want to be. Your life is controlled to an extent that it would be horrible. And it is the fear of that punishment that will prevent you from doing it in the first place. This is not the ideal way to regulate morality and behavior, but it's the way we have chosen in Western democracies. And so we have to put real teeth into it. In particular, for AI systems, we have to say, we have to see all of your training data. And we have to see your training regimen, we have to see the network, we have to see everything that you're learning from before you can deploy a system that makes decisions that affects people's lives. And if companies will definitely say, no, we can't possibly do that. That's our trade secret, we won't do it, we can't do that. We say that's nonsense. Drug companies, if they want to have a drug authorized, they have to give up everything. They have to give up the chemistry, they have to give up the manufacturing process, they have to give up how the thing is made, how it's delivered, what happens inside of the body, what tests they've done. And of course, we're seeing this right now with COVID vaccines. So organizations that want to have their drugs licensed have to totally open up their books to regulators and show everything that went into the drug. Well, we have to do the same thing with these artificial intelligence systems. You can hold nothing back. And if you say, no, it's my secret, we're not going to share it, great. Then you cannot use that system in the real world. And that's all there is. So in addition to monitoring, we need this kind of human supervision. We need humans in the loop. And if you're going to put out a VR system or an AI system that can affect what people see and think and hear, it has to be visible. You have to tell them you're doing it. You have to tell them exactly what you're doing. And you have to obviously give them all kinds of options for opting out. And they have to be real opt-out options. It's not like, read one of these ridiculous end user license agreements and your only option is to say yes. You need to have a real way of saying, these things are good and these things are bad, and I can choose. And it has to be a real choice. I mean, there's certain things now you can't say no to email or no to online video and still work in today's world. So you need to be able to say no in ways that are meaningful. So here's I think so I want to see all that put into place. But here's what I think is going to make the biggest difference. Right now, computers are making decisions, right? These AI systems, they're going to drive the VR systems. They're making these decisions with no understanding of whether they're being nice or mean or aggressive or friendly or helpful or nasty. They have no sense of subjectives. It's not that they don't care. They don't even know those concepts exist. We need to, I mean, there's some very surface level stuff where, some AI systems, will analyze the tone of your voice, or they'll look at, the configuration of muscles in your face and try to read a mood. That's very coarse. I'm talking about systems that really can understand the human impact of their decisions. And in order to do that, they need to understand what subjectives are, what happiness is, what kindness is, whether this decision you're making is going to devastate someone or transform their life in a positive way. And maybe it's a decision that could really go either way. And a human being, it would be obvious. All I have to do is give you a pencil and you'll be able to sign that form and you'll go to school and change your life. Of course, have this pencil. A computer doesn't know. It'll do some resource analysis. Oh no, I must hold on to that pencil because I might need the wood for burning someday. Computers need to know the implications of what they do. And therefore they have to have some sense of what the subjective implications are of their actions. So one way we can do that, one way we can help, of course, we need research into that specifically, but in order to keep these things going, we always have to champion creativity. We have to always have people thinking out of the box, and we have to encourage them to do unexpected things, because nothing screws up a computer like the unexpected. And so we have to just be constantly cranking out unexpected stuff to stress these systems, make them reveal themselves if they're trying to hide, and expose whatever nefarious things they're doing if they're doing something nefarious. So I'll tell you what, my original plan was let's talk. Let me wrap it up and then we'll do Q&A. So to wrap up, let's take a breath. Okay, we're talking about all the risky stuff. Then we talked about how to fix things up. So we talked about the good things, talked about the bad things. We talked about how to make things better, or at least pause them and figure out how to make them better. So I just want to wrap up by saying, why are we doing all of this? What is the reason we're even working on these subjects? And it's because we care about people. We are doing all of this for people and dogs and orca whales and elephants. So we're doing this for all living things. Why do we do our work? We don't do it to further some economic system. We don't do it to make our employer richer. We don't do it for a political system or a political party or a corporation. We don't do it for venture capitalists or newspaper columnists. We don't do our work to further, some press release or to give a tweet or something to talk about or to make a new gadget. We do it for people. We do it because we want there to be more love in the world. We want to encourage friendship and sorrow and joy and grief. We want there to be deeper family connections and connections with others. We want more art and creativity in the world, more learning. We want people to help one another and help themselves. We want people to grow. And so this has to be the question we always ask. Does this bring more love into the world? If the answer is yes, then we're on a good track. The answer is no, we need to think about it, because this is why we do things. We do things for the reasons we've always done them, because we want there to be more love. And I would be remiss if I didn't say one way to add joy to the world and to make people happy is to come join us at Weta, because we're hiring. And we make movies that make people happy. So if you like the idea of working with our artists to make things that make people feel good, we'd love to see you. The important thing is the connection between people. We're a limited species on a finite, fragile world. Everything is so tenuous. Every day is a miracle. Every person we connect with is beautiful. We should be working, and we should make sure our work is directed towards that, towards making a better world with more love. So that's my talk. Thank you. You can reach me by email and LinkedIn and Twitter, and there's my website, and you can reach me through Weta. Thank you very much. Anita, I'll throw it back to you. Oh, and I wanted to say thank you to Wolfgang and to Anita and to all the rest of the crew who organized this meeting and gave me the chance to talk to you. So Anita, I'll throw it back to you, and we'll do questions and answers for whatever time we have available.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Andrew, for such a wonderful speech. And I love your conclusion. I think this talk delivers a lot of new perspectives that we didn't think about before. And since we have received a lot of questions, so we would like to unmute the audience who already proposed a question so that they can interact with you directly. Okay, and let's see the first question. The first question is from Martin. Martin, are you there? Hello? Martin, I think you have to unmute your microphone.
Oh, Martin says, I don't have a mic. So can you just
okay, then I will repeat the question. You assume that we want to perceive the world as it is, looking at the way some people choose to live today that might not be universally true. And adopting a hedonistic view, one might consider an accurate perception of reality as less valuable than the happiness you get from a simulated or fake reality. And do you think that this is problematic? And if yes, do you have any ideas of how to deal with it?
Well, many people prefer artificial worlds over the world they have. That's why we have drugs. People prefer to change all their sensory inputs, and they do it voluntarily, and some people do it frequently. Some people are living in terrible situations for which fantasy is preferable. So sure, there are many situations in which an alternative to reality is desirable. For example, I might want to have ice cream tonight. Now, maybe I want to eat an entire pint, a big container of ice cream. Well, if I do that, it's going to make me really fat, but I really want it. I want that ice cream. So what I will do is I'll, flip a little switch in my head that maybe I'll eat tofu, but my mouth and my hand will feel like it's scooping, and my mouth will feel cold, and it will feel sweetness, and my throat will feel the ice cream going down. And in every way that I can tell, I'm eating some delicious ice cream. But I'm not. I'm eating something that's healthy for me, or maybe I'm not eating anything at all. That is a fantasy that is definitely preferable to reality. So there are certainly times, I think, in everyone's life where we don't want to perceive the world as it is. But I think there's a lot of value in perceiving the world as it is. If you close yourself off from other people's pain and suffering, if you close yourself off from the negatives, then you're not participating in the world as it is, and you can't help make their real lives better. So there is room for escapism. I'm a novelist, I write escape, but I think we need both. Anita, you're muted.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for your answer. And next, Christina. Are you there, Christina?
Yes, yes, hello.
Okay, please.
I just wrote a question as a quick reaction during this part where Andrew was talking about little guys, those little children who are hacking into our brain. Like,
Yes.
yes, and well, it is very interesting. There are a lot of benefits, but there are of course a lot of questions I have directly, because you said, like, who wouldn't want that that a decision is made before you even think of it, what you want. And for me, there is a kind of, it's maybe an ethical question, but it's also kind of a free will, like the freedom of my personality, my my essence as a human being, as a being different from all those people out there. Why would I want stop craving for my own? And why would I want why would I want to make to give all the decision making out of my hands, out of my mind?
So that's a very good point. And I think we shouldn't want that. But I think what will happen is there will be an encroaching. There will be conveniences that these systems will offer us that we will find irresistible. And they will also be essentially mandatory. They'll initially be voluntary, and at a certain point, you'll have to do it, again, to be part of the world. Right now, if you're going to be part of the world, the technical world, you need a computer. You can't say, I'm not going to have one. You need one.
Yeah.
And in the world of COVID right now, you need video. And you can't say, I'm not going to buy a microphone and a speaker. No, those things belong to me and I'm not going to share. You can't. You kind of got to do it. You need email. So these technologies are now pretty much mandatory. If you don't want to, leave that discipline entirely, but they're increasingly mandatory in all disciplines. And I think these things will be as well. When people thank you an email message, the way today they text you, in the future they'll thank you and they'll expect a reply by think. And if you don't reply by think, it'll be like a person now who doesn't have text. And that makes you the oddball, and that makes it hard for you to participate in the rest of what's going on. In many cultures today, you need a car. Certainly in the United States, unless you live in an inner city, you need a car. You can't opt out of these technologies because the society, the culture embraces them. You can't get a loan to buy a house if you don't have a credit card. And you can't get a credit card if you don't have a credit history. You can't have a credit history unless you have. So, I mean, the culture is set up to build on technologies that are mandatory in the sense that if you don't have them, you can't participate in the world. And I think that's what these things are going to increasingly become, because they will offer advantages. And just like, that's why I had that part in there about the smart speakers. People love conveniences and they love advantages, and they will adopt these technologies for the upsides, and they won't worry about the downsides, particularly younger people for whom the downsides are an abstraction. And by the time it becomes a problem, it's too late.
Yeah. Yes, I would love to if it were a real like an in real life symposium, I would really love to talk to you about this. But what you told, like this, because it is online and I can't really feel your presence and feel how we're talking and like people getting into the talk, this is also a thing that we need to work with, right?
Yeah, this is weird. No question about it. This is weird. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at a still picture of you. Yeah. I don't know if you always wear a big fuzzy green scarf. But you did in that picture. And so that's everything I know about you. Yeah, no, I look forward to the day where we can all be with one another. Yes.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you very much. It is very inspirational talk you gave. There are so many insights that were really, it's really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You.
Anita, I'm going to leave it to you to decide when we're out of time. I'll just stay here until then.
No, no problem. Okay, and next one is Ellie. Ellie, are you there?
Hello, yes.
Hello.
So very thought-provoking talk, thank you. I was just thinking a bit closer to nowadays, we like to fight, for example, fake news or face swap videos. There's efforts currently to like sense the human. For example, what does eye tracking tell us about a video or an image that I'm looking at? Or there's algorithmic solutions. So are there certain artifacts that are intrinsic to the generative algorithm that can be detected? So do you foresee, for example, research efforts for more sensorial VR media along those lines, so that everybody who's participating in a VR experience is collectively aware of what is real and what is synthesized? And how would we moderate this? Or would it be like human moderation, algorithmic, hybrid? And who gets to elect those moderators?
I don't think that those detection technologies are worth banking on. They're short-lived. It's cat and mouse, right? Every time we have a detection technology that says, oh, deep fakes, you know, I can catch the crinkle around the eyes. Guess what? Deep fakes fix the crinkle around the eyes. No, oh no, but deep fakes have this problem with teeth. Guess what? Deep fakes get better with the teeth. I mean, if you're familiar with generative adversarial networks and how they're trained, it's this adversarial system, right? I get better, you get better. I get better, you get better. Until you reach a point where the synthetic is so good, it cannot be detected. That's the nature of these algorithms, and that's where they go. So the ability to detect them is short-lived. Yeah, we can detect deep fakes right now. We can detect some of today's deep fakes. And as soon as those detection technologies get more widespread, the deep fakes will get better, and we won't be able to detect them. And then we will, and they'll get better, or we won't. And eventually we won't be able to tell. And it's the same thing with these things. When I look at you and I think I'm looking at you, moving your mouth and talking and, you know, doing whatever you're doing and combing your hair, there will be no way for me to know if that is you or not. There will be no way to build a reliable detection system, because we know from game theory, we know from adversarial training that we can learn how to detect a simulation and a fake, and we can learn how to avoid that detection. And the systems learn that all by themselves. It's not like, whoa, we're not smart enough to figure it out. The computers figure it out for themselves. So as soon as we figure out how to do that kind of detection, then that kind of detection doesn't matter anymore. So yeah, there'll be a short period during which we'll be able to detect these fake sensoria. And certainly we're not there, right? And so if you try to put an electronic version of you out on the net right now, the technologies are nowhere near close enough and they'll be easily detected. But as they get better, there will come a point where they can't be detected. And that's going to be a very big problem. And that's why I put up those risks of things like personality theft and everything theft, because how do you stop that? I don't know how you stop that.
That's an interesting take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next one is anonymous question. So maybe we can let Leon to ask question first. Leon, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So I was triggered actually by the discussion about who can be trusted, or you cannot trust companies and you cannot trust governments. So you should trust behavior, or this is only what we have left. But for example, that is also tricky if you look, for example, at the movie Ex Machina, that of course you could experience all kinds of behaviors, but still that doesn't mean that things can be trusted.
Right.
So I think it is also, so the discussion, for example, in the EU, just this morning I had this discussion about the difference between trust and trustworthiness. So there is also this discussion now about law and how that should be anchored in the law. So how certain AI should or could behave, or how certain companies could and should behave under the law, where it is also becoming something about purpose. So we know we cannot really determine the behavior or what good or bad behavior is in terms of law as it is now. But there are these discussions about how to formalize things in terms of purpose of AI. So, because you cannot simply also look at these AI systems, particularly not if they are trained with deep learning, what that they will do in certain circumstances. So how do you see that? So I'm working about this, try to formalize actually purpose of AI, and then have some kind of an understanding about the purpose and do something there in terms of regulating AI.
Well, I mean, if I got to pick what the purpose of AI would be, it would be to improve the lives of living things.
Yes.
Everything comes from that. It's
yes,
not.
I would fully agree, and it's also that it would be ethical and that it would be increasing well-being and all these kind of things. But the challenge now actually is how to formalize that and how to actually optimize on that, given that you need some kind of a mathematical expression of that.
Right, and I don't think we have the tools for that, and that's why I put up that slide at the end. It said we need research into subjectives. Yes. We do not have the tools for that right now. And so exactly. The question is, how do we do those things? We invent them. We have to have people invent them. And we're not doing that right now. But I think that's the way we get to where you want to go.
Yes, thanks. Okay, good.
Thank you. And because the time is almost up, so maybe the last question. Samantha, are you there?
Hi, yes.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, I'm actually just really curious what you view your role or the role of WETA in encouraging policy and public education to move us towards designing this positive future versus, and while discouraging systems or discouraging the negative ramifications that we can see.
Well, okay, so those are two very different things. WETA is a visual effects studio. So WETA is not interested in those things. We're interested in making movies that, you know, entertain and delight, and challenge, you know, all the other things that movies do. But the other half of your question is, you know, where do I see myself as an independent agent, right? Not as a WETA employee, which is part of what I am, but I'm also a human being. And in that sense, I think I see myself as someone who is trying to raise the questions. These questions are too big for one person to answer. I don't know the answers to many of them, and I don't even know how to find the answers to many of them. So I think my job, at least as I see it right now, is to do things like this talk, which is why I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to speak with all of you, because this is what I want to do. I mean, amongst all the other things I do, but in terms of, you know, what we want to do about the awareness of these kinds of systems, I want to talk to people who also find this. So I want to communicate the idea that this is worth thinking about and worth working on. And I want people to then go off and think about it and work on it. Because I want us to work together collectively. I want us to have conferences like this where we come together and solve these problems. So I guess I see myself as a troublemaker. I want to get people to work on the things that I think are important to make the world a better place.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great, and time is up, so we need to end this section. And thanks, Andrew, again for the inspiring talk. And we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Okay, and thank you everyone for joining the keynote session. Now we are going to announce the winner of the first day's presentation award. And Yun, please play the video.
The contenders of the VR Best Presentation Award of Tuesday are... Indeed, the jury consisting of the two co-chairs of the Tuesday poster session and the student volunteers were impressed by the inventiveness of many presenters. But there can only be one winner. Let's move on to our top three. On the third spot, we would like to congratulate Daniel Haas and Ali Arya on their excellent presentation of assessing the effectiveness of virtual reality gaming to reduce anxiety and increase cognitive bandwidth. You've made good use of video and an effective spherical layout strategy. We particularly appreciated that Daniel was present through an Oculus Quest 2. The Beat Saber music was exciting and increased immersiveness, but truth be told, could also become slightly annoying over time. Some points of improvement: some text was a bit small and out of sight. Some jury members also experienced clutter due to the number of slides and noted that the enormous panels made the room look small and the viewer feel tiny. Overall though, great job. It was a close call, but in second place we find Thermodynamics Reloaded, Experiencing Heating, Ventilation and Air Conditioning in AR by Alexander Arntz, Sabrina Eimler, Dustin Kessler, Alexandra Nabokova and Sylvia Schädlich. The AC system was a real eye-catcher and looked excellent in VR, bringing to life the object of study. In this respect, it was a crystal clear example of the benefits of social VR AR. Room for improvement? Some jury members noted that it was hard to grasp the general concept just by looking at the videos. You might also have wanted to remove the audio from the videos prior, perhaps considering adding captions. However, these are minor notes for an impressive presentation. Finally, we may present to you the winners of Tuesday's IEEE AIVR 2020 VR Best Presentation Award. Congratulations, Alexander Arntz, Sabrina Eimler and Ulrich Hoppe with The Robot Arm Talks Back to Me, Human Perception of Augmented Human-Robot Collaboration in Virtual Reality. This was a great presentation that truly immersed us, with clever use of audio and placement of virtual objects that transported you right to the experimental environment. Room for improvement? Text was a tad bit too small perhaps, but really, there isn't much to complain about. A well-deserved first winner of the VR Presentation Awards. We are curious to see if anybody will be audacious enough to top this one. On behalf of all poster session co-chairs, we wish you a great continuation of the conference and hope to see you during the poster sessions again today.
Okay, congratulations to the winner. And all these works are quite amazing, right? Today we also have a poster and demo session, which starts afterward. And let's continue to see the 1-minute teaser video of each poster and demo presented today. Okay, I think this one is originally silent, so it's okay.
Study on pseudo-haptics during swimming motion in a virtual reality space. In my proposed system, by using motion capture by Connect, an avatar linked with the movement of the user is displayed on the screen. By delay of movement of avatar against the user, the pseudo-haptics is displayed. This is the screen of our experiment system. When the subject moves their arm from top to bottom so that the subject lifts the body, the avatar on the screen moves upward. When the avatar reaches the top of the screen, the next avatar appears at the bottom of the screen and the subject continues moving this newly appeared avatar to the top of the screen. The task ends when the subject moves the avatar to the top of the screen 4 times. In the third trial, the moving speed to the upper side of the screen is set to be 1/3 of the moving speed of the other trials. The elapsed time from the start of the task is displayed on the screen, and the subject is instructed in advance to complete the task in as short a time as possible. In the fourth trial, the moving speed is same as the moving speed of first and second trials. The system was introduced on the TV program. Comedians came to my laboratory as reporters and experienced the system. When the avatar hits an obstacle, the scroll speed on the screen decreases. At this time, the comedian feels his body heavy. When the fish presses from the back, the scroll speed of the screen increases. At this time, the comedian feels that his bodies are lighter. The introduction of a VR system, Oculus Rift, is under consideration. By moving like a brushstroke, the spheres in the VR space come to the subject. As a visual stimulus for presenting a pseudo-force tactile sense, the ratio of the movement of the spheres to the movement of the arm is controlled. This will be called the movement ratio. When the speed at which the spheres approach is reduced, the subject feels that his arms are heavy. Conversely, when the speed at which the spheres approach is increased, the subject feels his arms light. I proposed 4 types of visual stimuli for presenting pseudo-force and tactile sensations, and examined the perceptual accuracy of differences in visual stimuli using psychophysical methods. In Method 1, pseudo-haptics presentation is performed by simply controlling the movement ratio. In Method 2, the spheres regurgitate at a constant speed. In Method 3, the spheres regurgitate at a speed corresponding to the movement ratio. In Method 4, the movement ratio is constant, and the control of the speed at which the sphere regurgitates is used as a visual stimulus. As a result of verification by 9 subjects, Method 2 showed the best accuracy. Thank you for watching.
Allergy warning. Item contains corn, healthy tip, olive oil.
Hi, this is Yuyan from UT Dallas. We provide a system to render user as a textured humanoid avatar in first-person view using single-frame Kinect. We target on a pan-alive scan for amputees in home treatment. The person in the photo will sit with the leg folded to mimic an amputee. Then, system will mirror the intact limb in a virtual space. Upper image is the result from Mr. Map 2019. Well, the area hidden from camera was missing compared with the current approach below. Our system contains 3 main steps. First, taking input from Kinect, then fitting simple model, lastly, gathering texture to render. Further, all test and audix dataset are used to evaluate the system. Here is a short demo. Video on left and right are corresponding to the third and first person rendering. As shown in video, the avatar is intact and textured in both perspectives. Thank you for watching.
Recently, there has been growing interest from academia and industry on the application of immersive technologies across a range of domains. One such technology, 360 degrees video, can be captured using an omnidirectional multi-camera arrangement. These 360 degrees videos can then be rendered via virtual reality head-mounted displays. Viewers then have the freedom to look around the scene in any direction they wish. Whereas a body of work exists that focused on modeling visual attention in VR, little research has considered the impact of the audio modality on visual attention in VR. It is well accepted that audio has an important role in VR experiences. One such technique, Ambisonics or 3D audio, offers a complete 360-degree soundscape. This poster reports the results of an empirical study that looked at understanding how, if at all, spatial audio influences visual attention in 360 degrees videos. It also assessed the impact of spatial audio on the user's quality of experience by capturing implicit, explicit, and objective metrics.
Thanks for your watching. This paper compares the translations and rotations and different DOF to evaluate participants' workload and presence on web VR. Moreover, the correlation between psychological feedback and task performance is assessed as this study's primary focus. This figure presents the experimental setup. Now you can see different manipulation modes. Subjective data and objective data were recorded by these methods. The result presents that the increase of DOF is associated with a lower workload. Besides, this study only finds a positive correlation between workload and efficiency and a negative correlation between presence and efficiency. Thanks for your watching.
Recent and continuous innovations in the field of extended reality are able to modify different aspects of the reference market sectors. At the same time, a constant evolution in the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning if combined with the aforementioned innovations, allows to conceive solutions able to shape new ways to inform, to improve skills, and to spend time. The ability to simulate contexts, environments, actions, and emotions, and the possibility to use the data generated by the simulation in an interactive way permit to imagine and create learning and strengthening paths. It is intended to demonstrate how a design operation, which starts from emerging technologies and a sector of high interest, and assume the scenario of use over 10 years, is not only extremely interesting, but also and above all, useful to consciously predict and accompany the aforementioned technology development.
Okay, very interesting demos, and you are welcome to go to the poster rooms and join the discussion. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the conference. And Wolfgang, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Very good session. Great. Thanks to all keynote speaker and demos, and congratulations on the awards. So, Andrew is here. Great. Yeah. Great. So, yeah, that ends the session. Please move on to the poster session now, or the workshop. Workshop is also going on. They also have keynotes or invited speakers now. So, no matter what, it's definitely going to be interesting. So join both, hop between both, or choose whatever you prefer. Good. Thanks, Anita, also for chairing and technical support. So we can close the room now. And thanks a lot.